Blind date disaster. The waitress dropped a note saying she's not who you think. The restaurant glowed with soft amber light, the kind designed to make strangers look kinder and silence feel romantic instead of awkward. Gentle piano music drifted through the air, barely loud enough to notice, but enough to fill the empty spaces between breaths. Daniel Cross adjusted the cuff of his tailored jacket for the third time in 2 minutes, his reflection staring back at him from the polished silverware, sharp suit, controlled posture, the face of a man who negotiated billion-dollar deals without blinking. Tonight, though, his hands were unsteady, a blind date. The irony wasn't lost on him. Across the table, Lily smiled as if nothing in the world weighed more than the menu in her hands. She had arrived 5 minutes late, cheeks flushed from the cold, apologizing too quickly, laughing too easily. She was beautiful in a soft, unassuming way. Simple dress, no visible jewelry except a thin silver necklace resting against her collarbone. Not the kind of woman Daniel usually met at charity galas or boardroom dinners. "I swear I'm usually punctual," she said, tucking her hair behind her ear. "Today just fought me." Daniel smiled politely. "Seems the day does that to everyone lately." They exchanged small talk, the kind that felt safe and rehearsed. Jobs, traffic, the weather. Lily talked about her work in vague terms, freelance stuff, she called it, while Daniel, on instinct, downplayed his own career. He had learned the hard way that the word CEO changed how people looked at him. Tonight, he wanted something normal, or at least, something that felt real. Still, something felt off. Lily asked questions, but not the usual kind. Not "what do you do?" or "where are you from?" Instead, she asked, "Do you ever feel like people only see what you give them permission to see? And have you ever been afraid that if someone really knew you, they'd walk away?" Daniel laughed softly, though the questions landed closer to home than he liked. "That's surprisingly deep for a first date." She shrugged. Life's too short for shallow conversations. Before he could respond, a waitress approached their table. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with tired eyes and a smile that didn't quite reach them. She placed 2 glasses of water down gently, her movements careful, almost hesitant. "I'll give you a moment," she said, voice polite, then paused. Her eyes flicked to Lily, just for a second, long enough for Daniel to notice. As the waitress turned to leave, her hand brushed the edge of the table, and something slipped free. A folded napkin landed near Daniel's plate. He looked down instinctively. The waitress was already walking away, her shoulders stiff, her pace faster than necessary. Daniel hesitated, then picked up the napkin, unfolding it slowly. 4 words written in hurried ink. "She's not who you think." His heartbeat stumbled. Daniel glanced up at Lily, who was smiling, completely unaware, or pretending to be, as she stirred her water with a straw. Her expression was calm, open, almost warm. "Everything okay?" she asked. Daniel forced a smile, folding the napkin back under his palm. "Yeah, just thinking." But his mind was racing now. Who was the waitress? Why would she risk her job to warn a stranger? And warn him about what? Across the table, Lily met his gaze, her eyes dark and unreadable in the low light. For the first time that evening, Daniel felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather outside. And somewhere deep inside him, a quiet instinct whispered that this dinner was no longer just a date, but the beginning of something far more dangerous, because if the note was true, then the real disaster hadn't happened yet. Daniel sat back in his chair, trying to steady the rapid thrum of his pulse. He kept the napkin hidden under his folded menu, but his mind refused to be silent. "She's not who you think." Simple words, 4 small, urgent words, yet they ignited a storm of questions. Who was she really? Why would someone care enough, or risk enough, to warn him, and most importantly, was he already in danger? Lily, oblivious to his inner turmoil, leaned back with a soft laugh, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. "I hope I'm not boring you," she said, her voice gentle but with a hint of self-awareness. "I know blind dates can be awkward. People usually talk about jobs or vacations or the weather. Daniel forced a chuckle, trying to sound casual, not boring at all, just, "Curious you seem, Laird." The words escaped before he could stop them, but Lily's smile only widened, a mix of pride and amusement. She tucked her fingers around her glass, her eyes distant, almost sad. Layers. That word hit him harder than expected. Layers he wasn't used to peeling back on a first meeting. Daniel had built his life meticulously, behind glass walls and polished smiles. He had mastered the art of showing only what others were supposed to see, an image of confidence, success, control. But something about Lily suggested she too had learned to hide, to protect herself. Layers. She echoed softly, "I like that word. Maybe it's true, or maybe it's just an illusion. People are complicated, sometimes even to themselves." She paused, then added with a faint shrug, "I guess that's why people get so scared when someone sees through them." Daniel's chest tightened. He understood that fear all too well. He had spent decades negotiating contracts, managing crises, keeping appearances. Vulnerability was an enemy, a dangerous weakness. And yet, staring at Lily, he realized he was curious in a way he hadn't been in years. Curious enough to risk something. He tried to focus on her story, the little pieces she revealed about herself. Freelance writing, a few small projects that barely paid the bills, and a history of moving from city to city, always leaving just before anyone got too close. Daniel listened intently, noting the way her hands trembled when she laughed too hard, the way her gaze sometimes drifted toward the restaurant's exit, as if expecting someone, or something, to follow. It was then that he understood. Lily wasn't just hiding pieces of herself. She was running from them, and from him, perhaps unknowingly. The napkin weighed in his pocket like a lead stone. He wanted to ask her about it, but the words lodged in his throat. What if it was nothing? What if the waitress had been mistaken? Or worse, what if she was trying to manipulate him? Yet the instinct in his gut refused to ignore the warning. Dinner continued, plates arriving and leaving, conversations overlapping with the low hum of other patrons. Daniel found himself watching Lily more than he was listening. He noticed the little hesitations in her speech, the flicker of fear when someone brushed past her table, the way she seemed to measure every smile, every laugh, before offering it freely. And then, just as he was beginning to think he might confront the note, Lily's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, her face changing in a fraction of a second, from calm to startled, then quickly composed again. "I have to take this," she said softly, standing. "Sorry, it's work. It won't take long." Daniel watched her go, heart thudding with an unnameable tension. Alone now, he unfolded the napkin again, staring at the inked words, "She's not who you think." A shiver ran down his spine, because deep down, Daniel realized he wasn't worried about a simple lie. He was afraid of the truth, and the truth, he sensed, was far more dangerous than anything he could imagine. The moment Lily returned, the real story would begin, and he wouldn't know if he was ready. Lily returned to the table with a faint flush on her cheeks, apologizing again as she slid into her seat. Daniel forced a reassuring smile, though every instinct screamed caution. Something about the way she avoided looking directly at him unsettled him. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, just a shift in her gaze, a slight tightening around her mouth. But Daniel, trained to read people for hidden truths, noticed immediately. "I'm sorry," she said softly, tucking her phone into her bag. "That call, it wasn't supposed to come through tonight." Her fingers fidgeted with the strap of her purse, a nervous motion that would have been endearing in anyone else, but in Lily, it hinted at a deeper unease. Daniel nodded, trying to keep his tone light. "It's okay, I understand," yet his mind raced. Something about that interruption felt staged, orchestrated. The note, the sudden call, the odd behavior. It all pointed to something more than a simple blind date. The waitress returned with the main course, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She lingered longer than necessary, glancing at Lily as she set the plates down. Daniel caught it, a quick flicker of warning in her expression. And then, just as she turned to leave, she whispered almost under her breath, "Be careful." Daniel's fork froze midair. His heart skipped a beat. He glanced at Lily, whose lips were curved in a polite, distracted smile. She had heard nothing, but the warning was unmistakable. Someone else knew something, and they were concerned. Dinner began in awkward silence. Daniel tried to push the growing tension aside, focusing on casual conversation. He asked about Lily's favorite books, her childhood memories, small stories designed to build trust. But every answer seemed rehearsed, a little too polished, like each word was carefully measured. Then came the moment that made Daniel realize the danger wasn't abstract. Lily reached for her water, and as she did, a man at the bar turned sharply, staring in their direction. His gaze was intense, calculating, lingering just a second too long. Daniel's chest tightened. He had a fleeting sense of recognition, not of the man himself, but of the kind of presence that meant trouble, someone who watched, waited, and had a purpose beyond casual observation. "Are you okay?" Lily asked, sensing the shift in his demeanor. "Yes," Daniel replied, forcing calm, just, sensitive to surroundings, but the man at the bar hadn't moved. His eyes followed them as he shifted, then disappeared briefly behind a column, only to reappear moments later near the exit. Daniel's mind raced. Was he connected to Lily? Was the note a warning about this very moment? Before he could piece it together, Lily's phone buzzed again. This time, she didn't reach for it. Her fingers hovered over the screen, hesitating. The air between them thickened. Daniel noticed a subtle tremor in her hand. "Daniel, I should tell you something," she said finally, voice low, almost a whisper, "about me, about tonight." Daniel leaned in instinctively, sensing the gravity in her tone. The world seemed to narrow around them, the clinking of cutlery, the murmurs of other diners, even the piano fading into background static. "I'm not who you think I am," she said, eyes meeting his, vulnerability and fear warring for dominance. Daniel's pulse quickened. The words mirrored the warning on the napkin, confirming what he had suspected. This dinner was never ordinary. Before he could respond, the lights flickered briefly, and a shadow passed across the room near the exit, a reminder that someone was watching. Someone who knew both of them, and in that heartbeat, Daniel realized the first disaster of the night had already arrived. The question now wasn't whether he could trust Lily, it was whether he could survive the truth she was about to reveal. The words hung in the air between them, heavier than any meal, thicker than the ambient hum of the restaurant. Daniel stared at Lily, searching her face for clues. Any sign of deception, any tremor of fear that could betray the truth. But there was only vulnerability, raw and trembling, etched into her delicate features. For the first time that night, Daniel felt his own carefully constructed composure falter. I wasn't supposed to tell anyone," Lily continued, voice barely above a whisper. Her hands clutched the edge of the table, knuckles white. "But you deserve to know, not because I want you to like me or pity me, or whatever people do on blind dates. You deserve the truth." Daniel leaned in, his heartbeat loud in his ears. "Lily, whatever it is, I can handle it." She shook her head quickly, as if to ward off doubt. "No, you don't understand. I'm not just freelance or moving from city to city. I'm hiding from someone, something, and I thought tonight, maybe I could be normal, maybe I could pretend for a few hours that none of it existed, but it does exist, and I think you're in danger." Now, too, Daniel felt a cold twist in his stomach. Danger. The word echoed everything the napkin had warned him of, everything the shadow at the bar suggested. He had faced hostile boardrooms, ruthless competitors, and impossible deadlines, yet nothing had prepared him for this, a situation where someone's life, and possibly his own, depended on unraveling another person's hidden world. Who's after you?" he asked cautiously. Lily's eyes flicked toward the exit again, restless and fearful. "I can't say, not yet, but I'll give you a hint. It's why I move so much, why I keep myself invisible, and why sometimes I can't trust anyone, even someone sitting across from me, looking kind." Her gaze softened, a shadow of hope appearing. "But I want to trust you. That's why I'm telling you now." Daniel felt an unexpected swell of sympathy. He had met many people in his life, some ambitious, some charming, some manipulative, but few had carried such visible fragility behind their mask. This wasn't a game of strategy or power. This was a human being, raw and exposed, pleading silently for understanding. He reached across the table, placing a hand over hers. "Lily, I don't know what you're facing, but I do know this. I'm here. I'm listening. You don't have to pretend with me." Her lips trembled in a soft, unguarded smile. It was fleeting, but it was genuine. For a moment, the fear receded, replaced by a fragile thread of connection. Daniel realized that empathy, not logic, might be his most important tool tonight. But even as he comforted her, the world outside the tiny bubble of their table had not slowed. Daniel noticed movement near the entrance, a subtle shadow lingering longer than casual diners would. His pulse accelerated, a cold knot forming in his gut. Someone was watching, someone who had a vested interest in Lily's secrecy, and now, by extension, Daniel's own safety. The weight of that reality pressed down on him. Sympathy was one thing, fear was another. He knew instinctively that the night's challenges were only beginning, that the carefully built facade of a simple blind date had already crumbled. Lily's voice, barely audible, broke through his thoughts. "Daniel, I have to show you something, but it's not safe here. Not yet." Daniel's mind raced. He had entered the evening expecting small talk and polite smiles. Instead, he was being pulled into a world of secrets, danger, and shadows. And as the waitress reappeared at the edge of his vision, giving him another fleeting look, he understood that he had crossed an invisible threshold. The first glimpse of danger had sparked a connection, but the true storm was about to begin. Lily leaned closer, her voice dropping to a hurried whisper. "We can't stay here, not with him around." She jerked her head subtly toward the bar, where a man lingered just at the edge of Daniel's vision, blending with other patrons yet radiating a silent menace. Daniel's mind raced. Who was this man, and why did his presence make Lily's usually composed demeanor falter so completely? "I need you to trust me," Lily continued, her eyes wide, shimmering with both fear and determination. "I didn't want tonight to be like this, but you deserve the truth, Daniel, and the truth is, I'm not just hiding from someone, I'm hiding from my past." Daniel felt the tension in his chest tighten. "Your past," he echoed cautiously, unsure if he was ready for the revelation he sensed coming. She nodded, swallowing hard, fighting the tremor in her voice. "It's complicated, dangerous, and it's why the waitress gave you that napkin. She knows parts of it too, but she couldn't tell you everything." Daniel's mind reeled. The napkin, the warning, the shadows, all of it had been connected. And now, for the first time, he began to see the bigger picture. Lily's life wasn't just complicated, it was potentially deadly. Before he could probe further, Lily's bag slid from her shoulder, and she pulled out a small, worn envelope, yellowed at the edges. "This explains everything. It's from someone I trusted long ago. Someone who doesn't want me free." Her hands shook as she pressed it into his palm. Daniel opened it slowly, carefully, revealing a collection of photos, letters, and documents. At first, they seemed innocuous, photographs of a younger Lily, letters in delicate cursive, but as he scanned them, his stomach churned. The letters hinted at betrayal, threats, and manipulation from people in positions of power, people who had tracked her movements for years. And some of the photos showed her in moments of vulnerability, moments that could be weaponized against her. What? Daniel muttered under his breath, a mix of shock and disbelief. "I'm a whistleblower," Lily said, her voice breaking. "Years ago, I uncovered something dangerous, something corrupt, and ever since, I've been running. Every city, every apartment, every small job, it's all part of keeping one step ahead. But now, he's found me." Her eyes darted to the man at the bar who had shifted again, now clearly aware that they were leaving. Daniel swallowed hard. Everything he thought he knew about this evening, the casual date, the small talk, the polite smiles, was gone. This was no longer a blind date. This was a confrontation with reality, and he was trapped in the middle. A sudden movement caught his attention. The man at the bar had stepped closer, talking quietly to another figure just visible in the restaurant's shadows. Daniel felt a surge of urgency. If they didn't leave now, the moment for escape would vanish. "We have to go. Now," Lily urged, grabbing his hand. Her grip was firm, decisive. No hesitation, no room for argument. Daniel rose to his feet, glancing around the restaurant. Patrons were oblivious, some glancing curiously at the sudden movement, but mostly returning to their meals. And yet, Daniel's instincts screamed that the ordinary evening they had entered was over. Tonight, the stakes were no longer polite conversation. They were survival. As they slipped toward the exit, Daniel realized the midline twist of the evening. The woman he had thought was just a mysterious, layered stranger was someone with a dangerous past, someone who could change the trajectory of his life forever. And the man at the bar, he was only the beginning. Daniel's hand tightened around Lily's, and with every step toward the door, the world they had known dissolved into shadows. What awaited outside could either save them or destroy them entirely. Daniel's grip on Lily's hand was firm now, more instinct than choice. They moved quickly, silently weaving between tables, the restaurant's soft music fading behind them as the door swung open to the cold night. The city lights glimmered like distant stars, but the darkness between them seemed alive, heavy with anticipation. Daniel scanned the street, noting every figure, every shadow. The man from the bar was nowhere in sight, but Daniel knew better than to believe that absence meant safety. Lily tugged him down an alley, voice low, urgent. "We can't go back the way we came. He'll be watching. He always watches." Her breaths came fast, her fear palpable, but there was also a steel beneath it, a determination that sparked something in Daniel he hadn't felt in years. Trust without hesitation. "Who is he?" Daniel asked, keeping his voice steady despite the rapid beat of his heart. Lily's eyes flickered toward the street, scanning for movement. "Someone from my past who doesn't forgive, doesn't forget. He controls people, manipulates them. If he finds me, everything I've tried to build, the life I'm trying to live, will be destroyed, and if you're with me, he might come after you too." Daniel absorbed her words, every syllable igniting both fear and resolve. He had faced hostile boardrooms and ruthless competitors, but nothing had ever felt like this. A shadowed world of hidden enemies, relentless pursuit, and the fragile trust of someone whose life hung by a thread. They turned another corner, and Daniel noticed movement behind a dumpster, a figure crouched in shadow. His instincts screamed danger. "He's here," Daniel said, voice low but sharp. Lily's hand squeezed his. "Stay calm, we have to lead him away from here. He won't expect us to split. That's our only advantage." They ran then, fast but careful, darting down narrow streets, ducking into side lanes, hearts hammering in sync. Every step brought a wave of adrenaline and terror. Daniel's mind raced, strategizing escape routes while trying to keep pace with Lily, whose determination to survive outweighed every ounce of fear. They paused briefly in the shadow of an overpass. Lily leaned against the wall, chest heaving, hair plastered to her forehead with sweat. "We can't stop, not yet. He's too close," she said, glancing down the alley, her sharp eyes scanning for any sign of pursuit. Daniel nodded. "We'll make it together." She hesitated, then glanced at him, eyes softening. I didn't want this for tonight. I wanted a normal date, but I guess life doesn't hand out normal when it comes to me." Daniel allowed a brief, ironic smile. Normal was overrated anyway. The moment of levity was fleeting. From the corner of his eye, Daniel spotted a shadow detaching itself from the alley entrance. The man. He was moving with precision, silently, like a predator. Daniel's chest tightened. This was no random encounter. This was planned, calculated. Lily pulled a small envelope from her coat pocket, the same one she had shown him in the restaurant, and handed it to Daniel. Everything you need to know is in here. Codes, contacts, addresses. It's my insurance, and it might be the only way we can survive this. Daniel took it, realizing that this mid-escape revelation marked the night's turning point. They weren't just fleeing a man. They were navigating a labyrinth of secrets, betrayal, and danger that could engulf them both. As the figure stepped closer and the alley narrowed, Daniel felt the weight of the situation fully settle. They had no choice but to confront what was coming, or risk losing everything. The night was far from over. The shadow behind them was relentless, and the next move could decide not just the outcome of the evening, but the very lives of Daniel and Lily. The alley seemed to close in around them, walls echoing every hurried step. Daniel's pulse thundered in his ears, yet a strange clarity had settled over him. He wasn't just a bystander anymore. He was a participant in Lily's life, entwined in a struggle that demanded courage, wit, and trust. Ahead, the faint glow of a side street promised a potential escape, but the shadow behind them moved closer, precise and unyielding. "Daniel, we have to split up," Lily whispered urgently, her eyes fierce despite exhaustion. "It's the only way to draw him off. He won't expect it. Just follow the plan in the envelope." Daniel hesitated. "I'm not leaving you. You have to," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "Trust me." He nodded, swallowing hard. "Okay, then we do it your way." With a swift movement, Lily darted toward a side exit, drawing the shadowed figure after her. Daniel crouched behind a stack of crates, clutching the envelope tightly, heart hammering. Every second stretched, each shadow a threat, each distant sound amplified. He remembered her words from earlier, the trust, the vulnerability, the courage it took to show someone her true self. Now, the lesson crystallized. Sometimes survival demanded risk. Sometimes it demanded faith in someone else. The man chasing Lily appeared at the alley's mouth, scanning, frustrated that his target had split. Daniel seized the moment, moving silently toward the edge of the street, following the directions in the envelope. He felt fear, yes, but alongside it, a steady resolve. This was about more than a blind date or a mysterious warning. It was about protecting someone who had trusted him with the truth. Minutes later, Lily reappeared, a signal from a prearranged safe point. Relief surged through Daniel as they ran toward a small, dimly lit building she had indicated. They slipped inside, locking the door behind them, hearts still racing, bodies trembling. For a moment, silence enveloped them, broken only by ragged breaths. Daniel looked at her, seeing not just the woman he had met that evening, but someone who had endured fear, isolation, and relentless pursuit, yet still carried hope. "You're incredible," he said quietly. "I've never met anyone like you." Lily smiled faintly, exhaustion softened by gratitude. "And you stayed, even after knowing the truth." Daniel shook his head. "We all have truths, Lily. Some are easier to face than others. But tonight we faced it together." She reached for his hand again, this time without hesitation. "Thank you for believing in me, even when it was dangerous, even when it was scary." They sat in silence for a few moments, letting the adrenaline fade. Outside, the city continued unaware, but inside that small room, a fragile sense of safety and trust had been forged. Daniel realized the moral of the evening, crystallized not in grand gestures or heroic feats, but in quiet courage and shared vulnerability. Sometimes, the greatest disasters can lead to the deepest connections, and trust, even in a stranger, can be the key to survival. Eventually, they emerged into the night, careful but free from immediate danger. The man at the bar, the shadows, the chase, all were behind them for now. Daniel glanced at Lily, noticing for the first time the serenity in her eyes, tinged with relief. "I guess blind dates aren't supposed to be like this," Daniel said, a small smile tugging at his lips. Lily laughed softly, the sound a balm after hours of tension. "No," she agreed, "but maybe some disasters are meant to show us who we really are." Daniel nodded, understanding that the night had transformed them both. In the chaos, the fear, and the danger, they had discovered courage, empathy, and the power of facing truths together. The note on the napkin, once a harbinger of disaster, had ultimately led to trust, connection, and survival. As they walked into the dim glow of the city, side by side, Daniel felt a strange warmth, a mixture of relief, admiration, and hope. The evening had begun as a simple blind date, but it had become a testament to resilience, honesty, and human connection. And as Lily glanced at him, smiling faintly, he knew, sometimes the people we think we understand least hold the most extraordinary stories, and the bravest hearts. The night had been a disaster in every expected way, yet it became a story of courage, trust, and the redemptive power of truth.